Okay, so now that you have set up the reverse spine rig, basically what we're going to do now is tell the original dev.hip bone to use the copy location constraint and simply move down along these individual reverse spine bones. So when that bone does that, it will simply force the pivot point to move up along these bones. So you have to visually see how this works to understand it. So first go ahead and change this to median point and switch over here to edit mode. Now first we have to make sure that the parent for this bone is set up correctly. So go ahead and switch to the bone tab, and over here you can see that we need to make sure that it goes to the original dev chest upper bone. So to do this, all you have to do is simply go to the data tab over here and just click your mouse on this layer to turn it on. And what you want to do is press the shift key down and select this layer, right? So if you click over here, we have this bone selected, and on this layer we have this bone selected. The order of selection is going to matter because we need to create parent-child relationships. Now just press the shift key down and turn this layer back on, so both of these layers should be selected. You can see that we're not going to see that selected bone where we can see its text highlighted. Just do Control P and do keep offset. Now go ahead and click on this bone to ensure that you have set up the dev.chest.upper as its parent. This is something we have to do in order to make this reverse spine rig work correctly. Now here what I want you to do is go ahead and zoom out, do shift middle mouse button to pan over here. Now here, this is going to be a little tricky to do. So first what I want you to do is go to the data tab, and we have to make sure that we turn on the non-deform layer first. Make sure you click on the hips.rev.c and go ahead and switch back to the deform layer, press the shift key down and select the dev.hips. Now press the shift key down and turn this layer on. So here the selection order for both bones is going to stay intact. All we have to do is shift control C and now do copy location. So you'll see that the figure is going to nudge up a bit, okay? You can see that it's lifted off the ground. So here all we have to do is click on this bone constraint. Notice which bone we're selected over here. So you can see that all we're doing is really just overwriting the location value. Okay, so we can just collapse this. Over here, what I want you to do is make sure that this goes on the tail. Now notice what's happening over here. The dev.hips is simply traveling and going to the tail of the reverse bone. That's all this is doing, right? But notice what's happening to the pivot point. The pivot point stays intact. This is what's going to give us the ability to move this, okay? That's how this concept works. Now we have to do the same thing again. So here we need to go ahead and click on this layer. Now select on the spine.rev.c. Now go ahead and click on this layer. Press the shift key down, click on the dev.hips bone. Now press the shift key down and turn this layer back on. The selection order is going to be intact. Do shift control C. Here you're just going to do copy location. Go to the constraints. Notice that we're back again on the dev.hips. And over here, I just want you to do the same thing. Make sure that this goes to the tail, right? And now notice what's happening to the pivot point. It's moving up again. Okay. Now here we're going to do the same thing again. Click over here. Now click on the chest.lower.rev.c. Go ahead and click over here. Press the shift key down. Select the dev.hips. Press the shift key down. Go ahead and select this layer, so this selection order will stay intact. Do shift control C. Here you're going to do copy location. Go ahead and go to the constraints and scroll down and make sure that this goes to the tail. Okay. Now lastly, we should actually be able to do this visually now because we can see these bones. So click on this bone, press the shift key down, click on the dev.hips, do shift control C, and here you're going to do copy location. Go ahead and scroll all the way down and make sure that this goes all the way to the tail. Now go ahead and go to the data tab, make sure the shapes is on, press the shift key and turn on the touch bone layer. Now if you zoom out, you want to make sure that you click on the hip.touch bone, and here if you press the R key, you will notice that here you're simply swinging the hips and the head and neck stay perfectly still. Okay, that's how this concept works. So now when you select the depth.hip bone, go to the constraints, you can see that here if we turn off the influence, the figure will now start to go up. Now if you go ahead and click on the hip.touch and press the R key, you see that it's giving us the ability to change the pivot point. Okay, go ahead and click this again. Now turn this off. Now we'll go back up over here. Look over here, press the R key. Now you'll see that the head and neck and the upper chest are starting to move a little bit. Now this might be a little difficult to select. You have to zoom in here to get to that bone, depth.hips. Over here, we're finally going to simply move this to 0. So here the figure will end up where it was. Okay, that's all this concept really does. It just gives you the ability to change the pivot point. So that's really the first step to setting this up. Okay, now what we're going to do is go to the data tab and go ahead and click on this layer and go ahead and select the depth.hips. Now what we have to do is basically set up the drivers. So what I want you to do is go ahead and go to the constraints, and over here you're just going to right click over here, do add, and here you're going to do manually create later. Right click over here, add driver, manually create later. Right click over here, add driver, manually create later. Okay, and we're not going to do anything with this one, we're just going to collapse this. So we should have basically 3 drivers set up ready to go. Okay, now what we need to do is of course go to the data tab over here, press the shift key down and turn on the touch bone layer, and here you have to decide where exactly do you want to put this. So here of course what I'm going to do is basically click on the hip.touch.root. I like to put it here because this is all about the pivot point. So here just go to the bone tab, click on add on the custom properties. Here we're just going to click on edit. Here we're just going to type in pivot, keep it a value of 1, minimum 0, maximum 1, and just click on OK. Okay, now here what we want to do is scroll over here to make sure that it shows up here. Just right click over here, you're going to do copy data path. Okay, now what we want to do is go ahead and open this up, go to the graph editor and go to drivers over here. Now of course we have to click on the depth.hip bone, click over here and click this, click on drivers, and here I'm just going to drag this over here. Now what we want to do is actually change this just to average value. Okay, now here we're going to of course click on the armature, and over here we're going to do single property and just do Control V. Okay, and make sure you click on update dependencies. So that's what that's going to do. Now here just do Control C, click over here, do the same thing, do single property, armature, do Control V. Over here just do average value. Okay, click on update dependencies, click over here, do average value, click on single property, click over here, armature, do Control V, and do update dependencies. Now go ahead and turn this off. Now if we go ahead and go to the data and make sure that the layer over here on the touch bone is selected, and what we want to do is go ahead and click on the hip.touch, and over here what we want to do is press the R key to make sure that it's swinging, and it does. Now go ahead and click on the hip root, and over here if you put this to 0, now you will see that we can control the pivot point. Okay, so if you press the R key, it rotates. If you click over here and change the pivot point, you can change it anywhere that you want, right? That's all this does. Here, if you put it all the way to 1, click over here, we can swing this entire figure like this. So all this concept is designed to do. So go ahead and click this and just put this all the way to 0. Okay, so here we're just going to go under File, do Save As, and let's save this as Rigging Lesson 03 R.blend. Okay, so now you will notice that when we change the pivot point, let's say all the way to 1, the touch bones are simply not sticking to the character. So this is very easy to fix. Just go ahead and click on this pivot point and go ahead and move this back to 0. All you have to do is go to the bone tab on the chest.touch and simply change this to the original dev bone. So over here, just click this, and what you're looking for over here is going to be the dev.chest.lower, and this one is going to be the dev.spine. So here, dev.spine, and of course this one is simply going to be the dev.hips. So here I'm just going to quickly come over here and type in dev.hips. So now when you click over here and change the pivot point, you can see that the pivot point changes, but these stay with the figure. So now we can rotate the figure, rotate the spine, and of course rotate on the hips. Okay, that's the only thing that you have to do when it comes to basically adding this advanced feature. You basically, when it comes to bone shapes, we needed to involve the original dev bones, and again that really doesn't matter because this is just a module you can delete out, because the dev bone knows nothing about these bone shapes. We're just telling these bone shapes to appear there. Okay, so let's go ahead and now do a File and just save it again. So I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.